Hey, how's it going, guys? So this is going to be my Week 5 running backs video for DFS on DraftKings. We're going to be taking a look at 5 different running backs that I believe are going to have really good standalone value for lineup builds for the Sunday Main Slate. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what kind of value we can find there at the running back position this week. My number one guy here for the Sunday Main Slate is going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. at the $5,500 price point with the matchup against Carolina. It's going to be one of the later games in the week. I messed up in my last video and said there's only going to be one game on the 4 o'clock slate. But one thing I didn't account for was the fact that San Francisco was playing at the time I was recording that video. So mistake on my part there. So they got a pretty good matchup against Carolina. They're playing away, but San Francisco being just the better team, in my opinion. Heading into this matchup, Jeff Wilson's been averaging basically, it says here 63 yards in his first 4 games, which is a little bit skewed, being that he didn't get as much playing time with Elijah Mitchell starting in week 1. Since then, he's been getting the majority of the running back touches with Mitchell being out, basically averaging right around just over 75 yards in the last 3 games that he's played. Again, getting majority of the running back touches in that offense. Also getting a little bit of passing work as well, with the exception of this past week against the Rams. Definitely a guy I think that's going to be very playable in lineup builds for Week 5. Looks like here Carolina has also allowed 134 yards rushing on average so far this season. I expect San Francisco to be playing from ahead as well, which only bodes even better for San Francisco heading into this matchup. As far as this matchup goes for Jeff Wilson Jr., so look for him at a $5,500 price point to have great standalone value in your lineup builds for this week. My next guy here is going to be Damien Harris at $5,600 against the Detroit Lions. Looks like he's averaging about 61.5 yards so far this season. They're playing at home with a third-string quarterback, so I believe they're going to be running the ball a lot. Detroit has also been giving up at least 172 yards on average so far this season in rushing. So again, taking the pressure off the third-string quarterback this week. Playing at home, Damien Harris has been the guy to be getting the most touches so far. As far as like in between the tackles, again, with taking the pressure off that third-string quarterback, he's not going to be asked to throw the ball too much. That's where Ramondre Stevenson's been really out touching him as far as being the running back to catch the passes out of the backfield. So look for Damien Harris to really have a big impact this week against a Detroit defense that's been susceptible to the run. Look for Bill Belichick to try and scheme ways to take the pressure off that quarterback and find a bigger role for Damien Harris in the weeks to come, with Brian Hoyer being on the IR for the next 4 games. So Damien Harris at $5,600, big standalone value with the matchup against Detroit this week, playing at home in New England. My third running back on the list here is going to be Khalil Herbert. Past 2 weeks, he's been doing fairly well. Had a really good week being filling in for David Montgomery with 33.9 fantasy points in week 3. Still saw 19 touches for 77 yards against the Giants for only 11.1 fantasy points last week. David Montgomery is listed as questionable right now, but I would go ahead and say that Khalil is going to be still a huge play against the Minnesota defense. He's been giving up on average 131 yards a game so far this season. Khalil Herbert should be seeing the same amount of touches as far as the backfield carries go. Should Montgomery be out again this week, I still think that um, in such a run-heavy offense, Herbert can definitely put up at least 15 fantasy points anytime that he holds the lead role. And in my belief, I think they're going to give David Montgomery another week to get that ankle healed up as much as possible before he takes on a major workload in that offense that's really predicated on taking the weight off of Justin Fields' shoulders and really pounding the ball in between the tackles. Our next guy on the list is going to be James Robinson for Jacksonville with the matchup against the Houston Texans. Been averaging just about 65 yards a game rushing. Last week didn't have a great performance against Philly, who's been basically the best team in the NFL so far this season. Only got you 2.9 fantasy points, which is only going to help you with ownership coming into this Houston matchup. A lot of people are going to be fading him, I believe, after such a poor performance last week. Look for him to bounce back against the Houston defense, who has been allowing 172 yards so far this season in rushing to opposing running backs. Look for him to get a lot more touches this week against the Houston defense that's nowhere near the caliber that Philly is so far. Look for James Robinson to have a bounce back week against this Houston defense that isn't quite as elite as this Philly defense that he saw last week. I would even say the 100-yard bonus is going to be in play for this week as well. Look for him to get into the end zone again after not being able to find the end zone for the first time so far this season against Philly. The last guy on the list is going to be Austin Eckler for the Los Angeles Chargers with a matchup against the Cleveland Browns. So far this season, Austin Eckler hasn't been getting the volume that we were accustomed to him getting from last season, but he's still being able to give you a very respectable fantasy performance for the most part. He's not leaving you high and dry like the majority of the top running backs have been doing. 14 carries basically on average for the season, with the exception again of that Jacksonville game where he only saw 4, but saw a huge chunk of receiving touches in that matchup. Look for him to have a big day against Cleveland, who has been averaging 113 yards rushing a game so far this season. I believe he's going to be seeing a lot more targets with Keenan Allen looking to be out again this week for Week 5. I doubt he has another 3-touchdown day, but look for him to find the end zone at least once, one way or the other, against this Cleveland defense. Again, at $7,800, you're going to have to pay up a little bit for him, but I think that he's definitely going to hold a lot of value at $7,800. As long as he's not priced over $8,500, he's always going to be in play as far as lineup builds go. So Austin Eckler at $7,800 for the matchup against Cleveland away. Look for him to get a lot of touches in the passing game as well out of the backfield with the absence of Keenan Allen. All right, guys, so those were my top 5 running backs for Week 5 for DFS on DraftKings this week. I think these guys are going to have a lot of standalone value as far as your lineup builds go. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out the videos that I'm going to be releasing later on in this week. I'm going to be releasing a stacks video as well as a wide receivers video as well. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in for the next video I release. Thanks.